Folks, we're visiting today with John Reisenweber. He is the State Director for the USDA Rural Development here in West Virginia. John, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to learning more about your role in the USDA and rural development here in West Virginia and more about you as a person as well.
Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Humble Influence, and the West Virginia Lottery. With the help of these sponsors, we're able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one from today's episode.
So tell us, let's start at the top. For our listeners who may not know, give us an overview. Like, what is the USDA and how does the Office of Rural Development here in West Virginia, how does it work?
Think of the concept of rural development.
Yes, sir.
So the objective in West Virginia, almost the whole state is considered rural, as we all know.
Yep.
But I think the economic impact that rural development can have help make these communities more prosperous.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to do in West Virginia, as you know. Yeah. We have a whole host of programs that we can put forward to help the communities in various ways. And it's very fulfilling when you go to work each day and you're trying to make West Virginia a little bit better.
Yeah, I love that. How did the whole thing get started from you? This is a presidential appointee, so about a year or so you've been in the role. How did you get started in rural development?
Well, it stems from a previous role I had doing economic development in Jefferson County.
Great.
I ran their economic development entity for about 6 years.
All right.
And got recruited by a friend of mine who actually runs a defense firm here in West Virginia, and I went to work for him for about 8 years or so, and decided that I wanted to get back to my roots.
Yeah.
So when I did that, I realized that there were some appointments that were coming up, and I contacted my former boss, Shelley Capito, when she was in the House, and asked her if she would back my resume, and it happened. So I was able to get the role. Yeah. So that was back in April and started in May.
Yeah. So you cover the entire state of West Virginia?
The entire state. Yeah. We have 8 offices around the state. And if you asked me to reel them off right now, I'd probably miss one, so I don't want to leave any out.
But you're basically from Jefferson County?
I'm a Martinsburg guy in Berkeley County.
Berkeley County.
Yeah,
okay,
so
great.
I was working in Jefferson.
Okay.
But
well, you're good. It's a good thing to be in that area because it's a booming, prosperous area. The whole Eastern Panhandle right now is one of the leading areas here in north central West Virginia. We're sitting in Morgantown, and Montague County, of course, is one of those leading states. But you're right. Our entire state it has some economic doldrums that we're going through, right? And I think one of the big things, from my perspective anyway, is the population loss that we're incurring and we're seeing right now. We've got to keep our young people here. We got to bring people. We need more West Virginians.
Absolutely, we do. And losing that last congressional seat certainly didn't help.
Yeah.
And you're right about the Eastern Panhandle. It's sort of a different world. And having lived there, most of my life, we're starting to complain that it's getting too crowded. So we've got to come up with a way to keep those West Virginians here. And in certain parts of the state, it's tough. We're getting folks that are coming in in the area where I live, coming in from Maryland, Virginia. They're retiring out of D.C. and selling their house and getting 3 times the property here in the Eastern Panhandle. So that's an issue. But we need to focus more on the rural part of West Virginia, and we're making a lot of headway.
Yeah. Well, John, you mentioned that you had served several years in the economic development role there in Jefferson County, I believe you said. what are the keys to attracting not just large scale businesses, but I'm talking like just employers, jobs.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a small business or a mid-sized company. We all I think it's kind of cool when we get the grand slam and we got a Procter and Gamble coming in or something like that. And
Right.
There's 500 new jobs or what have you. But what's the key really? What are these companies looking for when they want to relocate?
The small businesses are critical to making this all happen.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just stumbling along somebody that needs some help, and you end up meeting them at the park or at the state fair like you did, and how you all got started.
Sure.
It is something that really needs to be fostered throughout the state, and that includes they want the same. We want the same thing as anyone else. So you've got healthcare. Healthcare is a huge issue for us. Water and sewer. It sort of upsets me that we don't have enough potable water for folks here in West Virginia, and that's a area that we've focused on a lot. I sat on. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
I sat on the IJDC board, appointed by a couple of governors over the years. I was there 10 years, and it was a volunteer program. But I was shocked when I realized how many communities don't have good water systems and good septic systems and things of that nature. Yeah. It's hard to create rural development if you don't have those kinds of things. So, it used to be roads, water, now it's roads, water, broadband, healthcare, all that infrastructure that you think of. We've got to get that deployed all over the state.
Yeah.
And that's a big task.
When we talk about infrastructure, like you said, it now it does include things like broadband and technology.
Yeah.
We're hearing a lot about data centers and the impact on fresh water and and these kinds of things. And it seems like every time there's an argument for something, there's an argument against it, and it seems like we can't even get out of our own way a lot of times here in West Virginia, and that's disheartening sometimes. But I'm not giving up. We got to press on. When I think about the broadband issue, I don't know the number, but it's billions of dollars putting in the high speed internet backbone throughout the state of West Virginia. And I know there's two sides of the argument. One is like, why are we putting all this infrastructure in when we have a rural state and we got to go? You got to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to reach this holler with a piece of fiber optic buried in the ground. When why couldn't we just use a furnish that person that lives at Starlink?
Starlink, they're going to become very very hot commodities, I think, here in West Virginia. And the worry that I have is, as that gap that you see, and not just in West Virginia, but other rural areas, they're going to fall back even more because they don't have that, and the folks that are going to have high speed internet, they're the ones that are going to be taken off, and the others are going to be left behind.
Yeah,
and that's a very concerning thing, and that's a relatively new thing.
Yeah. I think it was exacerbated during the pandemic.
No doubt about it.
When people we had kids that were in the school buses outside of McDonald's parking lot, trying to get access to internet to do online classes. Yeah. It was a wild time, and it kind of shined the light, I think, on the problem and also the opportunity. Well, let's go back in and talk about what are some of the other thoughts you have on broadband.
Well, we have partnered with entities like CityNet and HardyNet, and that is helping a lot to have those folks that are on the ground in the state and trying to deploy those kinds of things. So we're also getting telehealth into the school systems and the hospitals and things of that nature, but it's a big task, and it's going to take a while and a lot of money to deploy those assets.
Well, where does the money come from? Are those things that are being funded by the federal government then?
They are. Yeah, they've put millions and millions of dollars probably billions across the nation to backfill that need.
Yeah, John, what's the thing that has you most excited right now? What are you fired up about?
I get fired up about a lot of things, if you can believe it. But I'm just excited to get up and go every day and be able to do something good for my state. And I like the variety of it. So one day I'm working on broadband. The next day I'm working on sewer. The next day I'm doing administrative things. There's a lot of variety to it. So I like having that opportunity. And each bucket, if you will, has something in it that's going to make the state a little bit better. Yeah. And that really means a lot to me.
Are there certain priorities?
Certainly.
What's the top thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say there's a priority. They're all priorities. Mm-hmm. So you deal with them as they arise, like a lot of things. I mean, we may not find out that there's a septic system that's not working well for a community, until it's brought to us, and then it becomes a priority. Yeah. Now that we know about it. Broadband, though, it's got to almost be at the top of the list. Yeah. I mean, the entire nation has this problem. It's not just in West Virginia. It particularly hits us hard because of the amount of rural activity that's here in West Virginia, as opposed to some other states that are able to, take care of it a little bit better.
And I would imagine that the topography, the hills and hollers, makes it even more of a challenge, because you've got to, you're trying to bury these lines, and you got to trench, and you got to
and the neighbors, they don't like having their yards torn up and all those things, but if they don't have their high-speed internet, they're upset. But that is definitely the priority. I think a lot of folks that, like you said, when it was COVID, I mean, our kids were outside, trying to get a signal. Everyone else has a signal, that type of thing. Yeah. So it could very well, you could characterize it as probably the most important thing going forward, because this technology chasm is going to just continue to grow if we don't do anything about it.
Especially with the onset of AI over the last 3 or 4 years, and generative, and the amount of bandwidth it takes, and like I mentioned, these data centers, and just being able to equip the usage of on your phone or your mobile device, just for the everyday person. It's a big challenge.
Well, and you mentioned the water attached to those data centers. There are some innovative technologies that are reducing the amount of that water, and making it more efficient. We have some in the Eastern Panhandle. Certainly, ground zero is northern Virginia. So we're not far from it. So it's logical that the eastern part of the state would probably have some of those. But folks don't want that either. That there are some environmental issues there associated with that.
Exactly.
So
this is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy, active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from Breezeline. Voted best in Mountaineer Country for their reliable, high-speed fiber internet for a low cost, Breezeline is the best gig in town. Here at Interaction Media, we rely on high-speed internet every single day to ensure we can deliver the best content possible for our clients, and when we publish Positively West Virginia each week. That's why we use Breezeline. It's affordable, fast, and they're great people as well. Learn more about Breezeline's internet, TV, and mobile options at breezeline.com. Folks, we're back. We're visiting with John Reisenweber Reisenweber. He's the USDA State Director for Rural Development in West Virginia. John, this is fascinating conversation talking about infrastructure and the fact that we have lots of challenges here in West Virginia, but you're up for those challenges and working hard every day to improve the infrastructure for not only economic development, small business, but everything from education and healthcare. So I appreciate that. In this role for a year or so, what's the thing that you found most interesting in in this capacity of rural development?
Well,
for the USDA?
I'll tell you this. I had a couple stints as a contractor to the federal government.
Yeah.
And what I did learn was that it still moves as slow as it did back then, which drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So that's something that I didn't expect. I thought maybe it had kind of maybe got a little bit better, a little bit faster. But the federal government does a lot of good things, but they don't do them fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with regard to the broadband project we talked about a minute ago, what's the timeline on that? Well, like critical mass, getting people to whatever it is, 85% connectivity.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
And
the
I'm not an
timeline?
expert on that, but
That's
I will
okay,
say this: it's going to be ongoing.
Yeah.
They're gonna it'll go on forever.
Are we making a dent in it?
Yeah, we're making a dent in it. They're West Virginia did pretty well. The delegation got together and made sure that West Virginia got their fair share. They're going to need more, though. We're going to need more than what is there. The timeline. That's a good question. I don't want to give you the wrong answer, but it's going to take time. And you're going to do it, block by block by block. Sure. And as like you referenced the last mile.
Yes.
And
that's right.
The Starlink.
Yeah.
That'll hopefully help with some of those. And I've seen that in action. It's amazing.
It really is.
It really is.
The technology is far out.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
Absolutely.
I have a question regarding, and again, this is one of those things that breaks my heart. When I drive around West Virginia and I see former coal town, or maybe it was an area that was thriving in the steel industry, or maybe even Chemical Valley in Charleston, and you see these towns that are kind of just, I don't want to call them ghost towns because that's not fair.
Right.
But they just seem abandoned. But they have infrastructure. They have roads. They have electricity. They have water. Maybe it's in disrepair. The water system,
we can
the
fix
sewage
that.
system, and then I think of these buildings.
Yeah.
That are already built, and maybe they need new roofs and maybe some repointing of the brick and the block and all those kinds of things. But how could we take and maybe even do a pilot project in one of these towns across West Virginia? Maybe it's adjacent to one of the areas we talked about, the Eastern Panhandle or here in North Central, and say, let's take this town and see if we can revitalize it. And Davis and Thomas, West Virginia, and Tucker County have done a great. And I know they're two separate towns. People are very passionate about that when they, if you're from there. But both of those communities, they're just within a couple of miles of each other, and they've done a tremendous job of doing exactly what I'm talking about.
They really have.
Taking this old infrastructure and putting, tourist attractions in there, shops and restaurants and eateries and coffee shops and supply stores where you can go get your fishing or your backpacking or bicycling thing. How can we incentivize? I don't know. I'm just thinking out of the box, because it does break my heart when I see these towns that are just they're just decimated. Can we create a pilot project where rural development, the federal resources come in, we get some grant money, maybe from Appalachian Regional Commission or something like that, and promote this and say, hey, if you've got a business, come to West Virginia, start it here, bring it here, and actively be working on that. I know it's not an easy task, but it seems like we've got these communities that once were thriving. Can we bring them back?
Yeah, we actually have a program very similar where we are trying to do those kinds of things, and you have to have you've got to have the buy-in of the city fathers and the folks who are running those counties and towns. They need to be involved, and there's also the financial situation that makes it much more difficult. But if you get folks working together, and I got to give some shout out to Kaylee, who has spearheaded a lot of that activity that we're seeing down in southern West Virginia.
Kaylee Kyle.
She's sitting over
Kaylee
does a great job for us here
at
USDA. I wouldn't be able to get half of what we get done if it wasn't for her. She does a great job. But she's been working on that down in southern West Virginia, which is where we need to keep a lot of our assets there and efforts there. We took a trip down to Boone, and I was amazed about what they were doing. They were basically buying, using funds that they had found or were able to get grant funding, and they're buying up those buildings. So, for example, the hospital there, they're buying a building where they house the folks that are working in the hospital, making it easier. And the hope there is maybe some of those doctors and nurses that are in those facilities will stay. So there are things like that are going on. And then they're buying up some of the dilapidated buildings, and they're fixing them up and renting them out at maybe a lower rate to get someone in there, and then be able to provide that opportunity to somebody that maybe needs a space. Maybe that person's got a really good skill, needs a place to do it, and that's one way to do it. And you do it day by day, week by week, town by town, as
building by building.
As these opportunities arise. You take advantage of them when you can. And so I've also been amazed at, and I'm switching gears on you a little bit here, the healthcare. My mother was a nurse for 50 years. My father was a doctor for 50 years. And the healthcare issue is so important. And we're seeing some really good things happening in the healthcare region. You got folks that have to drive long areas or long trips to get to see their doctor. But some of the hospitals that we've been able to help fund are doing incredible things. And really, that's one of the basics that you have to have. You have to have good health care.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we're seeing throughout southern West Virginia. Folks can get in and I was kind of surprised at some of the chemo activity that was going on in some of these places. You wouldn't think that it would be in a hospital like that. It'd be in a bigger hospital. So those are things that folks want to see.
That's wonderful to hear. Our company, Interaction Media, does a lot of work with WVU Medicine across the state of West Virginia, and what they've done just to keep a lot of these rural hospitals and these community hospitals open and in business is nothing short of miraculous, honestly. And it does take that kind of vision. Going back to the comment you mentioned about being able to provide housing for the workforce, there's a word that gets, or a phrase maybe, that gets thrown around a lot. It's affordable housing. And it's one of those things.
It's a very hot word right now.
It is, and the word. That means it's kind of a nebulous meaning, because I would like to have a $5 million lakefront home, but that's not affordable for me. So is that affordable housing? No, and I know what it means. I totally understand.
But it is a hot discussion now.
But I've been using this term workforce housing. Because I think that's very important.
It's in essence what we were just
workforce housing.
Yeah, we were just talking about it, and it makes the folks that in those areas that are working with those patients, they're more likely to stay if they have a little stipend with their
quality place to live nearby where they work, and you can start building community that way as well.
Absolutely,
I love that, and it's kind of interesting because I mentioned Davis and Thomas, Tucker County is a big tourism area, right? There's not a lot of industry there, but tourism is massive part of West Virginia's economy economy is tourism.
Absolutely.
And what I'm saying is, like, we need more tourist attractions. Like, we need more restaurants and coffee shops and cool places for people to hang out. You go to Fayetteville, West Virginia.
Fayetteville's great.
Fayetteville
you
is
can have a lot of fun in Fayetteville.
Fayetteville is an
Yeah,
amazing place to
it really
visit.
is.
You can go there. You could be a resident of West Virginia, go there and spend a week and not get to see everything.
Yeah.
And especially with the new national park designation,
Yeah.
New River Gorge, it's an amazing place. And can we just continue to build on those types of things
Yeah.
and not lose our soul, to a, an out-of-state, entity that wants
to come in, you invite them as any good West Virginian would.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And, like what I was thinking is, I had a conversation with some folks recently about this, is our young people. We got to keep them here.
We got to keep them.
And, can we take these, even some of these dilapidated businesses that are, the owners are tired, they're done, and rather than close that business, can we teach a kid entrepreneurship in high school and say, look, you don't have to leave the state. We're gonna set you up. We're gonna provide a grant to take this business over. We're gonna train you to run this HVAC company or this garage door company or whatever the heck it is, or maybe it's a restaurant
maybe
for
it's
those
a
tourism, and teach these kids and give them an opportunity if they show some ambition and initiative. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up. I mean, you're seeing more and more, fewer and fewer young people going for a 4-year degree.
That's right.
And I tell you, if you've had a plumber or somebody like that in your house lately, those folks are doing really well.
Yeah.
And if we can, get those students to be interested in a lot of the trades, we've got a really good schools throughout the state that teach those things,
the
and
trades
they can
and skills,
the
yeah.
trades and skills, and the words failing me right now.
No, yeah, you're exactly right, though. But we can provide that workforce training and education. I think it's going to be very impactful.
And those folks, they do really well. I mean, and a lot of them want to stay.
Yeah. Sometimes
Sometimes they leave just because they can't. There's nothing for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can keep them here, that'll do a lot of.
I'm a big
do a lot of
believer.
way, yeah.
I agree, and I'm a big believer that entrepreneurship is a path forward. It's not for everybody.
No.
But if we can teach them and give them some inspiration, some hope, and some vision of what their life could be, they will stay.
They will.
Because this is an awesome place to live.
That's right. It is.
This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back. In a world obsessed with leadership, what if the real key to success is followership? We hear it all the time. Be a leader, take charge. But what if the most impactful people aren't the ones leading from the front? In Humble Influence, I explore how humility, collaboration, and shared purpose empower followers to create meaningful change in business, organizations, and relationships. Discover the strength of true followership with Humble Influence.
They say you can't take the lottery with you. But now, you can play anywhere, anytime, with iPlay, the West Virginia Lottery's official app. Safe, simple, and always West Virginia proud. iPlay, the fun, secure way to play, wherever life takes you.
Folks, we're back. We're visiting with John Reisenweber, USDA State Director for Rural Development in West Virginia. John, thanks again for being here. This is a great conversation, very inspirational. For those who aren't familiar with rural development, what do you think is the most important thing that's being misunderstood out there, like what you do?
Well, I think a lot of folks are surprised when we're part of USDA, and a lot of what we do is not farm related.
Yeah, agriculture.
Agriculture,
Yeah.
exactly. So, it's true. It's sort of a misnomer. I mean, we certainly do have clients that are, creating foods and things like that, but it's not your typical agricultural job.
It's really focusing more on economic development.
Economic
aspect of it.
development, and that's why I like it, because it there's a lot more excitement to it and a lot more opportunity to make an impact.
Yeah. So with regard to impact, what kind of impact do you feel that your work is doing right now, especially in the last year in this role?
Yeah. So just, as the director, I have a good group of folks around us.
Yeah.
And we lost a handful of folks, half of our staff with the DPR, and that's slowed us down a little bit. So we're starting to get our wind back, and working hard to make get our programs out to the public. Make sure that they have the eligibility that they need, and be able to fund it.
Yeah.
And so, we're working hard to do that.
Yeah. What opportunities do you see here in West Virginia that you think maybe people are overlooking? Like, hey, you guys need to focus on these opportunities right here.
I think, I don't know if there are things like that they don't have access to. They may not, like I said earlier, realize that that's rural development. That's not ag, even though we're in the ag building. So I think we've got the bases covered. It's just if we have more staff, we could push more funding out the door. But I think we're making a lot of headway. I mean, I've got some stats. I mean, it's here in my sitting up here, but what were we, $400 million over the last 2 years that has been put into these communities throughout the state. Yeah,
that's incredible. Those are federal dollars.
Those are federal dollars, and then we can leverage a lot of those too. So, for example, really good example. We've got a water treatment facility in the middle of the state. We just obligated $31 million for that one project.
Wow.
And we got another $10 to $12 million in funding for the same project through other sources. So that's that capital stack that you always hear about. You're not going to get one entity to go in and fund a $50 million water facility. You're going to stack it. But this one was one of the biggest ones that's been done so far this year at Rural Development.
And again, that's bringing fresh potable water to people that don't have it.
You got it.
Yep.
24,000 people would be using that. A lot of businesses that will be using that water. So it's not just a few homes. It's a large impact.
And to be clear, when we talk about potable water, it's not that we don't have water. We have tons of water.
Right, you got to clean it. We got to have clean water.
Right. And
that's
exactly. I've been following for at least the last year or so what's happening out in the Colorado River, in Nevada, and the Hoover Dam and Lake Mead and all the infrastructure along the chain of that waterway, and it's alarmingly frightening what's happening to
it's drying up. There's not enough rain. They're having trouble.
Snowpack. And they're not only are they having trouble, they're going to be rationing electricity because that's where they get their power from, the Hoover Dam and other dams along the Colorado.
Exactly right.
They're going to be rationing water for businesses and homes. Yeah. And I wonder if that's a sales advantage we have for West Virginia is, hey, we've got tons of water.
Right.
Now we got to work on getting it clean.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
But we have tons of water, and we have tons of power here in the state. And I wonder if that's something we should be leveraging sometimes when I stay up at night thinking about these weird things. You know?
Well,
but we do have competitive advantage in a lot of areas.
Yeah. And, sometimes you want to be careful. We have a lot of water, but we may not want to give away too much of it.
That's right.
So there's that too. But back to your discussion of our quick comments about tourism. Yeah. I think that's a big opportunity. And what you're seeing is I've mentioned there are folks leaving up in the Northeast. They don't like the cold weather. folks moving into a place where where there are things that they want. And the tourism piece, I think, is critical to doing that. You'll have folks that'll come out, they'll get a Airbnb, and before you know it, they've bought a second home, or maybe they've moved here. Yeah. And that's the tourism office with the West Virginia State it's very good. They do a really good job.
They do.
And I think that's something that we can also we can fund some of those things.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, John, you've been a leader for a number of years in your career. You're a leader with the USDA and the Rural Development Office here in West Virginia. What do you think is the most important leadership trait right now?
That's a good question. You have to have a purpose when you get up in the morning. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's, you need to have some interest in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I talk to the staff about, some earnestness, be earnest in what you're doing. If we have a slowdown or you get a no answer, call me. I'll pick up the phone and call, one of my counterparts in one of the agencies, and we've had good luck with doing that. But you've got to have a purpose, and you've got to have some. What's the word I use particularly when I say that? Here I am. I'm losing my mind again. Yeah, make sure you cut that.
I appreciate that. So, why do you do what you do? You mentioned, having a purpose of, really having an impact on the state of West Virginia.
Yeah. I'm never going to be without a job. It may not be the job I have now or one in the future, but, back to your question about, was it what keeps me up at night, or no? Was it the other one?
Yeah, just what's your purpose? What's your why of doing this work?
I'm doing it because I love this state.
Yeah.
I love living here. It's such a good place. The people, you can always rely on the people here, mm-hmm. And that goes a long way. And I've been able to do some things throughout my career to help the state, and I keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
I worked in D.C. there for a little while, and it was fine. It was fun, but at the same time, I didn't want to raise a family in D.C. And I met a girl from Wheeling, actually, right, playing in the Congressional Softball League in D.C. And here we are now, married with 3 kids back in West Virginia. And she was living down there too. So it's just a nice place to be. And if I can spend some time making it a little bit better, then that keeps me going.
Love it. What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody here in West Virginia thinking about starting a business, or maybe even rescuing an aging business like we talked about earlier?
Get them in touch with us. I mean, we'd love to help. I mean, if I don't know about it, I can't do anything to fix it. Yeah. So, with your ability to, broadcast things to people, please let us know if you see something, or somebody that listens to your show, sees an opportunity. Let us know, because we have a really good portfolio of funding that we can deploy in a lot of different ways. Yeah. It's everything from community facilities, think fire trucks and police cars and courthouses, things like that. Nonprofits that we can get funding to. We have a business program that. We just did if you can believe this, we were talking about coal not too long ago. We did a $25 million guarantee to a coal company down in Boone County. and that's going really well. So it was, nice to be able to get that done. We've got programs that, we've got a housing program. You had talked about that a little bit before. I mean, it's we've got a 502, which is, and you got this is affordable housing, as we discussed it earlier. The 504 program we have is for a loan for a new home. And then we have a 504 that is one that folks can get some improvements made to their homes that they have. So think of someone needs a roof, as long as they are eligible.
Meet the requirements.
We can
and
meet
so
the
forth,
requirements. We can do it. So, I mean, we can do it. We can build something from the ground all the way up.
What's the best way for folks to reach out?
Get in touch with us. My phone is always, my door's always open. My phone is, you can give them my personal cell or my government cell number. We've got staff all over the state that you can go in and see someone at one of our 8 offices around the state.
That's awesome. What we'll do is we'll put links to all that in the show notes, as well as on social media when we share this out on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all those places. So for sure about that. What as we wrap up our time here, John. First of all, it's been an honor to have you on the show today to talk about rural development, the USDA, everything that you're doing, your passion for West Virginia and wanting to make a difference here. And it was kind of fun spitballing some ideas here too with you, because I think that the work that you're doing is very important in the work of your team here in these different offices across the state. What's like the parting thought you have? Like what's a piece of advice to anybody listening to this as it pertains to our state and the future?
If you want to change the way that you're, let me think that for a second. Say it again.
Yeah. If you're thinking about West Virginia, what's one final parting thought that you have in terms of encouraging West Virginia? What the future looks like?
Well, I think the future is bright, and get involved. Find out what good things are happening in the community in which you live. We talked about what Kaylee was working on with those 19 or 20 counties that she was working on. Get involved. You never know what might be around the corner for you. And consider staying in West Virginia. So we need young folks to stay and help make West Virginia a better spot. I mean, my oldest son graduated from WVU, and he's working in the healthcare field. And my daughter is at WVU now, finishing up. And then my youngest is at Shepherd. So we've paid a lot of tuition here in West Virginia. So hopefully we'll get we'll get that back at some point.
Right.
But get involved. See what your community's doing that you could participate in, that you would want to participate in. That could lead to, you just never know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Our guest once again, John Reisenweber, State Director for USDA Rural Development in West Virginia. Again, thank you, John. It's been great to have you on the show. I think the work that you're doing and your team is doing here across the state of West Virginia is extremely important.
It is.
And we need you, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on our show, drop us a line on our website at positivelywv.com. And of course, we appreciate your comments, your positive reviews, and encouragement along the way too. We really appreciate that a lot. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Jimmy Murray behind the controls. Good job, Jimmy. I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.
We'd like to thank our partners, Humble Influence, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Highmark West Virginia, the West Virginia Lottery, Interaction Media, and our studio sponsor Breezeline for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positivelywv.com/sponsor.